Indy. One word says it all. This year, for the second time, it hosts another iconic name in sports car racing, the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. Now in its 58th running, huge fields have shown up, all hoping to kiss the bricks. It's time to go racing on Hagerty Race Day here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Tom O'Gorman with Hayward Wagner covering all the action down in the pits. And our broadcast today is being presented by the fine folks at Mazda, and it is a glorious late morning here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and there's no question about it. This place is special. In 2017, when the runoffs first appeared here, we had almost 1,000 entries. Now, 4 years later, it comes back, almost 900 entries. Tomo, the people want to race at Indy, especially in the runoffs.
Big time, and just the same way everyone wants to race at Indy, everyone wants to watch this race that's coming up. Spec Miata, it's the one everyone pulls their chairs up for. We have 72 cars on the grid. We've pulled our chairs up ourselves. We're ready for some racing.
Yeah, they talk about drivers getting up on the wheel. We're getting up on the seats because this one is going to be superb. This is one of the two largest classes. 72 cars are going to be going after this Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Let's take a look at the track map presented by Mazda. 2.6 miles, 14 turns, and it offers up lots of challenges.
It really does, and it's a very unique track in that we don't get to come here very often unless you come here for a very rare track day or maybe a vintage weekend, things like that. You will not see this track on your normal yearly calendar, so a lot of these drivers seeing it for the first time wheel-to-wheel coming into turn one at the green. The first sector, a very long one, mostly more than half the track, in fact. Very wide front straightaway, about 6 or 7 Miatas wide, in fact, down into turns 1 and 2, a switchback that can become pretty complicated if you go more than 2 wide, then flat out through turn 3, dab of the brakes for turn 4, and again flat through turn 5 in these cars. Then the big carousel, almost like a bit of a skid pad through turn 6 and quick onto the Holman straight for 6A, then through sector 2, 7, 8, 9, 10, drive like S's, and then onto the banking for one more run through some switchbacks at 12 and 13. This one might be decided between 13 and the start finish. Who knows?
Yeah, the Spec Miata, it is a drafting duel with some of the best drivers in the planet. It is going to be spectacular. There is that monster field, and down among them is Hayward Wagner, and I can't wait to hear what he's found out for us.
Guys, 72 cars is no joke. The grid is literally overrun. Miatas everywhere you look. I had a chance to talk with several of the guys up towards the front of the field. Brian Henderson, your pole sitter. His strategy is to try to hold on to the front of the field for as long as he can. I talked to Jim Drago, who's a little bit back. I asked him, is there a gentleman's agreement? Are we going to try to get 3 or 4 laps in before we start to battle? He says, yeah, we say that every year. The green flag flies, it's a cage fight before you know it. The one to watch might be, though, you've got your defending national champion in the second spot, and right behind him, you got a 15-year-old kid who's got 2 karting world championships to his credit already. This kid does not feel pressure, but does not have a lot of experience in stuff that has shocks and springs and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how those 3 cars play out at the beginning of the race. Tomo just mentioned it. I'll reiterate it. One thing that's a huge question mark here, these guys have only had a chance to run 19 laps once before. What these cars are going to feel like at the end of the race and whether or not there is room to get a pass done between the last turn and the flag is a big question mark. So nobody really knows if the hot ticket is to be leading onto the front straight or looking for the pass.
Yeah, that's an absolutely great point. And I was out on corners Tuesday and Wednesday, and when I was out at turn 14, bump drafting is allowed in this class, and trust me, folks, they are doing it with vigor coming through turn 14. That could make the difference. If you've got a friendly face behind you who's willing to give you that big shove, that could be it.
It really could, and that research is going to be going on for 19 laps. So while they may come into the green flag thinking, let's work together, you got to do your research at some point. And while they've had 3 days of qualifying, 18 minutes each, that's not that many laps. So these drivers were certainly working together at times, but also kind of feeling each other out, feeling out where their cars are going to make the speed and where they're going to be able to take that win at the last lap, whether it be, like Hayward said, into turn 1, maybe down the back straight, maybe into 12, maybe right at the end of the race. You got to figure that out before you get there because you don't want it to be a crapshoot.
Absolutely, and a couple of people to watch. One of them is going to be starting back in the 54 spot. He's Gordon Conley out of St. Paul, Minnesota, Land O'Lakes region, my home region, and he is our Hawk Breakthrough performer, which is the most positions gained from qualifying Tuesday to qualifying Wednesday. Never been here before, picked up 13 positions, and if he has that kind of gain once again during the race, he's going to make a good statement for himself, certainly. So a great run for him as the field makes its way out onto the track. And again, this is going to be 19 laps or 40 minutes, whichever comes first. And one of the things you heard Hayward talking about, Preston Pardus, the defending national champ. Well, the last time and the only other time the runoffs have been held here at Indianapolis, guess who won it? A guy named Preston Pardus. So he's definitely going to be somebody to keep an eye on. This is Brian Henderson, your pollster. It's his first ever poll, and he was 4th at the runoffs last year at Road America. But we've got Jim Drago, a 2-time gold medalist, back in 8th, 4-time gold medalist in a variety of classes. Elevin Goulart back in 9th. You've got a 3-time gold medalist in Matt Reynolds back in the 13th spot in the 74. You got Denny Stain, who was a 2-time gold medalist, is right behind him. I mean, this field is deep. And then Nick Leverone, who has a gold and a silver, is back in 26. So that just tells you about the quality and depth of this field. When you've got gold medalists buried that far deep, you know this is a deep quality field.
It really is, but there may be more going on there than just that there are a lot of really fast drivers. If you look at the qualifying timesheets, there are really kind of this one tier of driver in the top maybe 6 or 7, and then there's clearly another tier that are basically 8th back to 30th or something like that. And the guys who aren't in that top tier have no idea how the other guys did it, other than they might have pulled off that money lap in qualifying, that perfect draft, whatever it may be, perfect conditions. Almost everybody went fastest on the final day of qualifying, as is typical, but we have a lot of these drivers that, like you mentioned, are kind of in the 10th to 20th range that are certainly a factor, and they're the ones that are going to be trying to lob that grenade up into the top 10, where those guys at the top 5 to 10 are going to be going into this race thinking, let's keep it calm, let's keep it cool, we'll keep it collected. Guys like Danny Stain in 14th, guys like Chris Haldeman in 16th, they're not going to be patient. They want to get up towards that front real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's interesting. Top 7 all underneath the track record set in 17, but it's the gap between those guys and the rest of the field that has everybody behind them scratching their heads just a little bit. We're rolling the starting lineup here on the bottom of the screen. Find your favorite driver and the like. If I were to try and run through them all, I'd be talking until Tuesday. So we're just going to let this one get into the racing. But look at the size of this field. Now, let's talk one thing. It's called Spec Miata. Spec normally means they're identical. In this case, they're not really identical. They're all Miatas, and they're all built to a specific spec. The idea being that they should all be pretty equal.
Sure, and there's basically 4 options. You have the first and second gen Miatas, the NA and the NB. You have the 1.6 and the 1.8 liters of the NA variety. Then you have the 1.8 liter and the VVT, variable valve timing motor, for the NB. So there's 4 options. They all have their own minimum weights and minimum, kind of specs that they have to pick. Pick your flavor. The go-to tends to be the newest of those, that 1.8 liter NB VVT motor. There's a number of those cars, and they tend to be towards the front, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. We've seen other times. In fact, last time we were here at Indy, one of the 1.6 liter NAs finished second and was very competitive. So that doesn't really have much bearing on it, other than the fast guy wins in one car, everyone goes to that car.
Well, absolutely, yeah. And we also have another thing we're going to be paying attention to. 2 drivers are capable of winning the very prestigious and immensely difficult to win Super Sweep. One of them is Denny Stain out of Fort Lauderdale. He's starting 14th. The other one is the 77 of Travis Wiley, a rookie in his rookie season here at the runoffs, but he's had a great season of racing, starting in the 18th spot, and depending upon how the cards fall, either of those could win the Super Sweep, which requires winning the Hoosier Super Tour points title, a few other things, and winning the runoff. It's not easy to do, especially if you're starting outside of the top 10 in Spec Miata.
Yeah, 14th and 18th, again, to reiterate that. So they've got a long way to climb. See just how wide this Holman Straight is. This is the run between turns 6 and 7, and they do not have to adhere to the dark stuff. They can go all the way out to the grass there on the right side of your screen. That's driver's left for the cars. And cars have been out there not only to the grass, but in the grass a number of times. So you can just see how much space there is at this track, and it makes it kind of awkward because Do you cut distance? Do you carry speed? These guys have had to figure that out. You see, you could fit 7 Miatas wide here through the S's, let alone on those big straights.
Yeah, and on that straight, you're talking about it, they've been to the grass, they've been on the grass, they've been spinning off the grass. So there's a sequence here, and you want to certainly avoid those last two as we're watching this huge field work its way around. The pace car is already off, and we've got drivers that still haven't made their way through turn 7 yet. That is how big this field is here. And watching for them to come around, had a nice shot there of the number 18 and Josh Tobin back heading into turn 7. But here we go. Field bunched up. Once again, your pole sitter to the inside, Brian Henderson. But the defending national champion and the winner here in 17, the white number 42 of Pardus, alongside Zilisch and Bruni, the rookie Zilisch. And then you've got Tyler Brown, Grayson Farashon. Just a great field. Here we go. Going for the gold and Spec Miata, we're green. Pardus getting a nice little bit of a shove by Bruni here. Is it gonna be enough? Henderson holding station down low. Jim Drago way out to the outside in that white and green Mazda, a few rows back. This is gonna be interesting. And does Pardus try and work the outside? Well, I was gonna say he doesn't. Big cut. Couple of cars cutting through, doing the shortcut. And they'll have to give those positions back or get penalized here. But the big story so far, half of the 72 cars at least have made it through those first couple of corners.
A couple of cars in the back of the pack were getting pushed wide coming off of turn 2, but I think they came back on nice and smooth. These drivers being so respectful, which is fantastic to see. Pardus side by side for 3rd. That's the first car side by side, but for the most part, the top 10 is single filed out. Now they're going to slot in, and it's still Henderson at the front.
Yeah, Henderson and Zilisch able to slide. Zilisch able to get down and underneath Pardus. And Pardus recognizing he's such a savvy driver, realizing if I try and force the issue here, it's going to end in tears. Don't try and do it now. Let's get racy later. And he's decided now is the time to get racy. He's down to the inside of Zilisch. Couldn't quite get to the 97, the pole sitter Henderson. But now he's trying the outside of Henderson. That's not going to work. Has to tuck back in as they head toward turn 10.
Zilisch smart to kind of secede that position to Pardus. Remember, Pardus was like 6th coming to the white flag last year at Road America and still won the race. So this thing is not over till it's over, but we have to keep it going to make those positions change. If we finish under yellow, that's not going to happen. So 2 cars kind of breaking away. The top 4 really have a little bit of a break before Bruni, but then they close up and compress in that braking zone. There was one car in the background of the start that was really aggressive. It's the black and yellow car at the back of this 7-car train. Moved up a couple of rows. I'm trying to get a number on that car, but it might be Kyle Greenhill.
I wouldn't be surprised. He's certainly quick. Here we go through turn 13, now 14. Here's where that bump draft comes into big play. And they don't just come up and gently tap you. It's a pretty big thump. It just drives you forward. And you actually grin when you get there. And now Pardus, he's down to the inside. And I mean, he's down on the oil dry and the grit. This is going to be difficult, but he had enough of a shove. He's through. He can feint back to his left a little bit, get a little bit better grip. Big roundup move around the outside by Bruni. Beautiful move using the grip on the outside, Tomo.
And that was a little bit unfair for the rest of them to decide. Brian Henderson, you're gone. They shuffled him all the way back to 5th. He's still side by side. The 07 of Tyler Brown gets through as well, and now it's the 142 of Kyle Greenhill that slots himself ahead. Henderson slips from 1st to 6th in 2 corners.
Welcome to Spec Miata, folks. It can change that fast. The freight train is always active and working at it here, but now it's going to be the 142 of Greenhill up on the outside, trapped a little bit. Now he slots in. He got a spot, gave that one back up again, but Pardus now into the lead.
And the black and yellow I was talking about is actually Charles McTudis, as Amy Mills has had an issue. The 14 car that started well down the order a bit, I think. 47th and heavy damage there. Here's a replay of it. Gets just caught out by a big surprise. Another car goes for a slide. Body parts fly as they go into the gravel.
Yep, there were 2 other cars that, the one that ran through the gravel and got out, he got crossed up and eventually came across and clipped Amy, and that was it. So full course caution. And with some race groups, you got some drivers that are going to be bemoaning the fact they've lost that 8-second lead or whatever. Not Spec Miata. it just bunches them up a little bit more.
Oh, just a little bit more, maybe a couple car lengths at most. And just going back to Mills, if you noticed, her sight lines to that incident happening were not great. She would have had to be looking through her A-pillar on the passenger side, so really no fault of her own there, but just a tangle, too many cars in one place. But this is why the drivers were so aggressive on that green flag lap, that first lap, because this caution, while it will be short, who knows how long it could have ended up being. So you see Pardus was pretty aggressive to get out of that third spot back up to the first spot, and was a little selfish about it, leaving Brian Henderson hung up to dry.
He really was, but, you know, it's the gold medal.
Of course.
You know, whatever friendships you may have when the visor snaps down are pretty much temporarily on pause, and that's how it plays out. So as they come through right now, it's Pardus over Zilisch, then Bruni with that beautiful move around the outside. The 07 of Tyler Brown, fifth now up into fourth. Then Henderson, as you pointed out, the tire rack pole sitter, dropped back into the fifth spot. And then Greenhill, nice move up as well. Then Nickolas. And then you've got, I love this, 8th and 9th, two multiple gold medal winners, Elvin Goulart and Jim Drago. And then rounding out your top 10 right now, the 144 of Brandon Collins. And that car there, that blue one, just going out of frame, the blue with the bright orange on it, is Denny Stain. As I said, he's one of the drivers who is eligible for the Super Sweep. Good to see Amy, after getting towed out, able to continue. We saw body parts flying, and it may well have come from the other car that sideswiped it, because hers now looks to be moving all right.
Yeah, these cars they're sturdy. I mean, they're built for this. There is a little bit, it almost looks more like a fender liner than anything else sitting there in the gravel. But once you're buried in this gravel that was designed for essentially Formula One and stock cars, the poor little Miata doesn't stand a chance.
No, it's you get sucked in.
Yeah,
that's the only way to put it, and you're pretty much done. So watching Denny Stain, this is a guy. He is just a phenomenal competitor. He's been doing this for a long time. A world-class photographer as his full-time profession, but I think it's a passion for him too. But this is certainly something special for him. He'll run here. He runs in a couple other classes as well. And even though he's back in the order a little bit, he is one hard-nosed racer. And, you know, you have to take a look at 15th right now, the 128 of Chris Haldeman. I mean, he's a pole sitter in this category previously and is buried back in the order right now. And he's one of the guys who's sort of scratching his head a little bit.
The car right in front of him is a pretty good story, too. That's Nathan Saxon in the 188. Started 20th up to 14th, so that's a good charge for the number 188. Just a couple cars right behind Danny Stain, in fact. And this is a driver we see a lot on the SCCA esports circuit over on the video game side, especially last season when we were playing a lot of those video games. But that Flat Out Motorsports car has had a good start to this one. Don't get him confused with Danny Stain. It's neon orange versus normal orange, but those two maybe hooked up even a little bit coming through the field.
Well, you do want to try and find a partner when you're back in the order a little bit to get in the straights, be able to draft, work together a little bit to get to the front. You get to those last couple of laps, the gloves are off, there's no question. But you do like to find a little somebody to help you out just a little bit here. This is going to be interesting. Pardus and then the young, super quick rookie Zilisch. Just how well are they going to play together at this point? And then Bruni, who is just absolutely in take no prisoners mode out there, obviously.
Yeah, did a great move around the outside to get up to the position he's at. I think he went from about 6th to 3rd as the rest of the drivers were working on sorting themselves out. Coming back to that green flag, nice and quick caution.
Here we go, back to green in just a second as they work through turn 14. And look at Pardus tucking it way down to the inside. And this is a want to stop the draft move as we're back to green. And let's see here, it looks like Bruni, he's up and already by Zilisch. Boy, did he read that well, and because he found a friend named Tyler Brown.
Yeah, and look at that. Actually, Pardus moved over a lane to make sure that Bruni had his draft. Bruni gives him a push. These two want to be near each other side by side for Henderson and Drago around the outside, trying to make it happen through turn 1. Now they sort it out. Single file. The blue car comes up driver's left and will take a spot. Hard to see the number from here, but they're still 2 by 2 by 2.
That was a nice restart by Drago, considering he had been back a ways and has now moved up. I think he picked up 2 spots on that restart. So we watch them float now through some of the really tricky, and I mean, it's really technical. There's a little bump and go there. That's Grayson Farrison, isn't it?
Yeah, on the outside is Elvan Gular, who's a defending or a former champion in this class. They had a little bit of a touch in the braking zone for turn 6, but now around the outside goes, that's Casey, Justin Casey, I think, in the 85. No, I'm sorry, that was actually Jonathan Davis in the 16, the black with red headlights side by side with Elvan Gular.
Such a big field, obviously. And you can see it just stretches forever here. And this is a Gular. They are side by side again. And you can run side by side so many places here. Now Gular settles it. And Davis has to drop in behind.
These guys will know from racing this all season that the longer you battle side by side, the more space you lose. You saw that little bit of a gap start to form between those two cars as they go side by side to the cars in front. Ooh, here's a little bit of a scuffle. This is for second.
And this is doing Pardus a huge favor, as every lunge like that, you get you and the guy you're racing with off the fast race line. And Pardus looking in his mirrors, the grin getting bigger here. And a nice move there. We talked about Bruni is in no-nonsense mode today. That's for second. It pushes Zilisch to third.
Pardus and Bruni sent a message on that restart that they were not really interested in having Connor Zilisch in their battle. Remember, Pardus moved over to give the draft. Zilisch is now on attack mode on Bruni because he knows they're not necessarily working together. But look at the gap it's given Pardus as Brian Henderson pops from 5th.
Oh, and look at the defensive move by Bruni. And that might help the 07 of Tyler Brown. He wasn't quite far enough along the outside, but again, Drago now working the outside of Henderson. He picks that spot up, right in front. Little wheel drop right there by Zilisch. That'll kill your momentum just a smidge. Here comes, boy, what a run by the 07 of Tyler Brown here, up and around the outside and makes it stick. And look at that, Drago trying to come right with him.
Zilisch really pinched Brown to the inside through turn 2. They had that little bit of a touch, and that's what let Drago come back into this battle. So that's now for 4th, but maybe, I think Drago can slam the door. No, they touch again, Zilisch, big slide. Oh, they're still pointing the right way.
Well, you know what? It's important for Zilisch. You know, when you're the newcomer in this class, the old guys are like, yeah, you're going to need to earn it. You know, show me what you got. Well, right there, Zilisch let one of the real true veterans in Drago know, yeah, I'm not going quietly here. You want to rub fenders? I'm up to it. Now, though, Drago able to finally get that door shut and make that play stick.
Greenhill shoves the nose in there for just a moment, but Zilisch slams the door back shut. They're 2 by 2 for most of this lap, but now Zilisch gets back in line, and they have now gifted basically the top 3. Quite a gap.
Yeah, there's the 70 of Gular, who has not been able to quite make the moves up through the pack, but as you pointed out, look at that bit of dicing with, again, Drago and Zilisch there has allowed that group up in front to build that little, margin, and it's all because of the effective momentum of battling versus running clean.
Pardus is checked out. If this race stays green, I don't see anybody catching him. The draft is not that effective here. It's just not quite that enough where it would be at some other tracks like Road America or Daytona. A lot of the drivers actually were fastest in certain qualifying sessions by themselves. So I don't know, even if Bruni and Zilisch work together, not Zilisch, Brown work together from 2nd and 3rd, Pardus might be uncatchable. Whoa, big lunge.
Move. Down to the inside, there's Zilisch, gives a little bit of a nudge to Jim Drago. I think that was his message going, I'm here to play, pal.
I don't know, Zilisch I think is showing chinks in the armor, showing some of that inexperience and I don't want to say immaturity, but he's just young and driving kind of like it. He gets shuffled back 2 more positions, and even though he doored Drago into turn 1, Drago keeps the spot.
Right, and that's the experience of Drago. It's like, yeah, that's fine, but you've just slowed yourself down. I'm going to float around, and as you said, Zilisch suddenly looking at the back deck of yet another car as he loses his spot. But that's learning your racecraft.
It really is, and that's allowed Kyle Greenhill up through, so that's going to be the top 5 positions there. Zilisch has slipped off of that top 5. Henderson there as well. Grayson Farrison slipped from 6th to 8th. That's the bright blue car, plain bright blue, that you can see in the middle of the line, and then the rest of them. Danny Stain hasn't made much progress, but just in front, they're side by side between the 128 of Haldeman and Jonathan Davis around the outside now.
Staying way wide, but just trying to work his way through, and does. And you can see that big nose wrinkle on the number 77 of Travis Wiley right behind him. He's had some contact. But I just wanted to point out when we get back to it, behind Pardus, Bruni and Tyler Brown, you cannot even distinguish between those 2 cars right now. They are doing everything they can not to race each other, to run clean and use the draft to try and do something about Pardus up front. This scrapping back here is absolutely fierce. Here it is. And Bruni and Tyler Brown, you haven't seen Tyler lunge, you haven't seen him do anything. Right now they're saying, look, we can settle this in the last couple of laps, but we've got a little bit of time here. Let's see what we can do.
And that's because they know they're probably not going to catch Pardus unless there's some sort of emergency, but they know they're within the clutches of Drago on back. It's Drago, Zilisch, Greenhill, Henderson, Farishon last time through. It's actually Greenhill is in front. Now Henderson tries up the inside on Zilisch, makes it happen before they even turn in.
And a couple of rows of side-by-side behind them coming through. One of them, there's that blue car of Grayson Farishon right up alongside. Boy, this is just fabulous racing everywhere you look in this field right now.
And the car that gained that position there was Brandon Collins. We haven't said the name much, and the car is a fairly unassuming black livery, but he's now at the lead of this battle, just in front of Charles McTudis, and that has shuffled like we talked about. Grayson Farishon started 6th. He's barely in the top 10 now.
Yeah, this is great, and right behind that group is another very savvy driver, the 128, Chris Haldeman, who has been a pole qualifier in this class before, very, very quick. But boy, Pardus is just gapped out. But I'll tell you what, Drago is coming, isn't he? He and Greenhill are closing up on Bruni and Tyler Brown. So it had been a 2-car battle for second, could become a 6-car battle for second in a heartbeat.
And he was the quickest car that wasn't Preston Pardus on the lap last time through. Bruni and Brown were basically tied there, but the quick car right now, Kyle Greenhill, and he's taken that whole little pack with him. He's shoving Drago, and that battle for second is coming back to us. This is going to get good.
Well, you know you're fast when you're sort of put into your own class.
To give you an idea, he did a 58.9. The rest of the field did 59.8s and worse. So
there you go.
He's certainly just put his head down at this point.
And that means for those of you who are new to racing, perhaps a 1 minute 58.9 second lap. We just dropped the first digit because, you know, it sounds cool. And we think we are.
Put my race car driver brain on.
There
just started rattling off numbers. I'm sorry about that.
Exactly. Nope, hey, it's no worries. But again, there you see it. That's second and third, and then 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. That close. And I think we're going to see that become that multi-car, 6-car battle for second here. And then behind 7th spot, a little bit of a margin now to the back. But look at this. They've essentially caught him now. So that's the battle. That's going to be fierce. And then here is that second group, if you will, at this stage. You're talking about Collins and Farishon and the like, and Haldeman.
A little bit of a bobble from Haldeman. He gets a big push from Travis Wiley coming through turn 3. Wiley is the car with the damaged hood, but doesn't seem to be hurting him much. I still don't think he started the race with that like that.
I would agree with you.
And then behind is Farishon, who's now slipped down to 10th behind these drivers.
Look by Farishon there, down underneath that 77 of Wiley. But as we take a look here, Pardus continuing to build the lead, and the battle behind him is starting to heat up. As we're heading into the final half of this one, we're going to step away and say thanks to a couple of our partners.
Why race? Because it's in our blood. A love of driving that pushes us as hard on the road as it does on the track. It's why we reinvented the Roadster and put a piece of it into every car we make. It's why we refine, rethink, and refine again. And it's why we'll always engineer to your heart's BPM, not simply an engine's RPM. Why race? Why indeed?
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
Welcome to that magic realm. Between here and there, a no man's land, and everyone's land, where great expectations grow, and rewards are given to the swift, the perceptive, and the daring. Introducing the Mazda Cx-30 Turbo with all-wheel drive. More power for your pursuit.
You know what? Mazda does a lot more than just present the track map here at the Runoff. It supports the racing community with face-to-face and virtual coaching at the Runoffs and events throughout the year. And it's support like that has made Mazda the most driven car in SCCA road racing. And here's one reason for that. Spec Miata alone is a hugely popular category, and the reason for that is this level of racing, and it's fierce. And when you're in packs like this, and Tomo, you've been there, you know, you're in the middle of a pack like that or at the back of it, you're literally driving through the windshield of the cars in front of you to get an idea of what's happening out there. I mean, it's frantic.
Yeah, this style of racing is just, it's a complete flavor of its own. If you've raced other wheel-to-wheel racing and you've never raced this style,
yep,
you would be shocked at how different it is to drive one of these race cars in this race than it is to drive a different, you know, multi-make, multi-class, whatever it may be, series. You just have to work off of assumptions. You have to know that the guy in front of you and trust that the guy in front of you knows what he's doing. As we see a big lunge from the 63 into the 78, a big slide. There's where the trust can go a little bit sideways.
Yeah, and the 34, Chris Ciuffo in that as well. There's a look at the number 78 at Clark Camburn as he was trying to run up and get around the guy right in front of him there. You can see it was at the number 80, putting some Camburn putting some pressure on. That is Anthony Girazzi. And one of the things, in a move here, Camburn just straight lining it, trying to get to the apex there at 12. If you get in there and you're actually just completely alongside, you can make that move work. But if you're not, there's a tendency for the guy to shut the door on it. And Clark right there went, yeah, I better ease out of it here. And you get back in that order a little bit. That's where you can be finding drivers that'll be going for that Sunoco Hard Charger Award, moving up the most spots during the race. Sunoco, the official few of the SCCA, supporting that. Really nice program. I like that. You know, you may not be up in the medals, but if you've got a great drive from 20th to, you know, up into the top 5, that's worth acknowledging. So thank you to Sunoco for doing that. And boy, this battling is fierce right now.
Yeah, just a reminder, there's 72 cars on track right now, so that kind of battling is happening everywhere. You just got a little taste of what the battle for about 25th looks like. Now we're returning to our battle for second, which as we cut away to thank our friends at Mazda, we had that battle kind of change position just a little bit. Jim Drago picked up a spot from Tyler Brown and has been getting a little bit aggressive on the back of Nick Bruni, but I think the cars that were working together have now been separated. Bruni and Brown, who were working together, and Drago and Greenhill, who were working together, now have fully kind of immersed themselves. But the last time through, the fastest car was actually Brian Henderson in the number 97, reset the fastest lap of the race.
Absolutely, and obviously while we were in that break, you saw the Drago, as you pointed out, has now gone around and is now in podium position. And, you know, yeah, he's a talented driver. You start 8th in this category, and by little over half distance, you're up to 3rd. That's a drive that you have put in. Now, Nick Bruni right there, and Drago, is he just going to hold station and try and move away, or is he going to try and take off? Bit of lock up there. I think that may have been Henderson.
I think it was actually Drago, and he might have been
really?
pushed from Brown.
Oh,
so
okay.
Drago is in the white and green, Brown in the blue and silver, and I think the 07 might have been pushing the two into the corner just a little bit, but they made it work.
No, that makes sense, though, because if you're locking up the brake, it's going to drag your speed down a little bit. Suddenly, Bruni's got that little bit of a gap again.
Yeah, Drago stopping 2 cars with the brakes of 1.
Exactly.
Coming down in there.
All right, now Drago recognizing that the guy behind him, that's Brown, and then Greenhill in particular got a really nice run. And the minute you get 2 cars that have popped out and are running side by side, if you're the guy behind them, suddenly you get this huge hole being punched in the air. And so when you're up in that group, sometimes you're not really too comfortable with popping and making that move because it could give the other guy a massive run.
But you can see the body language of those top 6 cars, 2nd through 7th. They've kind of agreed for now. We are working lap 11 of 19. They've agreed for now that we're not going to attack each other. We're not going to play that game. They've kind of single filed each other out. But Drago maybe having some flat spot issues in the number 2. There's another lockup.
Flat spot is you literally wear a flat spot in the tire, and then every time you go to the brake after that, it almost hunts for that, hits it, and locks up again. And it makes for a long day when you've got one here. Drago has a huge amount of experience, and he'll certainly be able to deal with it, but it doesn't make it easy, that's for sure. And behind him, there's a look at that 07 of Brown, and the scrap behind them. And I'll tell you, the 142, the 172 is Zilisch. This is going to be a really good learning day for him. He certainly is fast, but these cars require a special bit of racecraft.
It does, and typically the car at the back of these lines is the one that's most willing to make moves, and Connor Zilisch has already demonstrated he's the driver most willing to make moves as he's up the inside of Brian Henderson. They're going to be really tight into 12, but Henderson opens the door, doesn't want to lose too much time, and look who's joining the battle. It's Brandon Collins, one of the quieter drivers that we haven't said the name much of, but position number 8, car 144 there in the black at the back.
I'll tell you, Henderson right there showed his experience when he got that big move by Zilisch. He knew if he turned in, there was going to be contact, just open the wheel up, even to the point of dropping his left onto the grass. But said, yeah, I just don't want any contact here. There's still racing to be done. But look at this, Drago right up underneath the deck of Bruni. And you'd think, is he going to pass? No, he doesn't want to right now because running like that, but he's locked up again. I think he may have some sort of an issue with those front brakes. Either that or he's just leaning so hard. It's always the unloaded tire.
Yeah.
So it could just be he's just pushing hard.
I think he's pushing that hard, but he does have just that little bit of that flat spot. If you imagine a D versus an O rolling across the surface, he's got a D shape on that right front tire. Doesn't seem to be slowing him down too much, but it can be a high risk, high reward kind of thing, or high consequence kind of thing. Shows the nose on Bruni, but slots back in.
And just to put a point on it here, folks, this is a class where oftentimes you'll have the top 20 covered by less than a second on the grid. And Pardus right now has a 5.5 second lead.
The 144, that is Brandon Collins. We pointed him out. Some sort of mechanical issue, goes straight off. Maybe he lost steering. He looked like he couldn't control where the car was headed.
It's a good amount of runoff in that back area there as we go back now to the 07 of Tyler Brown, who's got Zilisch now. And there's a little bit of a tap right there as they work through turn 10.
See a lack of brake lights going into turn 10. That's kind of cool. They just turn it in and lift.
Just let her float right through there. This is such good stuff. The 142, the silver with the red of Greenhill. And here goes Zilisch again.
Same spot he got Henderson last time, and actually missed that he had passed Kyle Greenhill before. So now he's through 3 positions, but drives off the track, getting it done, throws it back to the other side, transitions a little bit late. He's going to hold this whole field up coming onto the front straightaway with that loss of momentum. And now Greenhill has to look to the outside of Tyler Brown to keep his foot to the floor.
Boy, and I'll tell you what, after running wide there, it looked like in between 12 and 13, Zilisch got through 13 incredibly well. Now has that run, and here comes the 142, excuse me, the 142 of Greenhill getting back around on Tyler Brown.
And Henderson slices from the top to the bottom of the track and goes up the inside of Brown as well. I think Brown will probably let this happen, does so, opens his hands and turns in late to slot in behind.
Yep, you get trapped out there, you lose a lot of momentum here. Ooh, Zilisch running just that little bit wide, but you just never lift in that scenario, and it didn't hurt him too bad. Watching the lap times here. Pardus, every lap, he's a 10th or 2 quicker, and it just keeps building that margin up. If you go back to this scrap, but the big story there is Bruni and Drago now. They've got themselves a good 1.5 to almost 2 seconds back to this group just by working together and drafting.
Yeah, things have definitely stabilized on pace. We're working lap 13 of 19, so we should have about 5.5 laps to go this time across the line. Henderson up the inside of Greenhill, but the tires are certainly going to start to get a little bit greasy at this point as they've been shoving across this surface for 13 laps now.
And Zilisch has been able to open up a couple of car length margin to that group right now, and he's starting to show some speed. He just ran a lap that was 0.2 quicker than Pardus. So Zilisch in that black car with the green roof, he's still got pace. Henderson now showing the nose, getting up and underneath Greenhill, coming up through 12. And that may be a matter of he watched Zilisch do it a couple of times and said, well, that works.
Yeah, and didn't have any consequences from it either, so he's going to try it too. And interestingly, you are completely right. Connor Zilisch is starting to run down Nick Bruni and Jim Drago all on his own.
Yeah, it's impressive.
A couple of other cars that are on really quick laps this time that we can see on time and scoring. Charles Batutis and Travis Wiley at 9th and 10th are flying right now, and that is going to be about midway down this line. The black and yellow, and then the car directly behind. They're actually eclipsed by the neon green of Chris Haldeman, but they're going to get some quick laps this time through.
Oh, and look at this. Henderson working the outside, bit of lock up there by Greenhill. They're still side by side. Henderson slices through, but that's what we're talking about. Look at the momentum and the speed that Tyler Brown rolled. He's going to be on the outside. He's not going to be able to make that stick. But you can see those two guys going side by side through one, and the guy behind him running the line just floats so much more speed.
And that's allowed the cars that we just mentioned. Look at the black with the yellow stripe, just almost reset the fast lap of the race, did Charles McTudis. And he's now glued. There he is in the background, trying around the outside of Haldeman.
These packs. And the thing is, when you're running in packs like this, we talked about it, you're driving through the windshields. If you're in the middle of the pack and something happens, it's impossible to avoid it as well. Zilisch has caught Bruni and Drago on his own. He just turned a 59.3 on that last lap.
Just heads down and head down and lights out for him. But this battle for about 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th on back is getting really, really interesting. We talk about top 3 and top 5. Top 5s are bragging rights more so than 6th place is. But look at Zilisch. He is really, really racy. We know he's not afraid to try stuff.
No, and Pardus moved over, or excuse me, Drago moved over to defend on him, and that's given Bruni just that fast. Bruni ends up with 3-4 car lengths in hand, and through 7 that time, Charles McTudis was absolutely crossed up, floating just sideways through 7. We're getting down to that point of the race where you're starting to think about dropping any friendships and going for the gold here. And but look at that, just that little bit, Drago defending, and out and away goes Bruni. Interesting to be a fly on the wall and hear the post-race bench racing chat between Drago and Zilisch here. Here comes Zilisch. The thing is, there Drago stayed on that fast line. You could just outbrake him going in.
Tyler Brown continuing to slip the wrong direction, gets pinched off the track nearly by Charles McTudis, leaves him some perfect space. That is some Spidey sense driving, but they're still side by side. That's allowed Chris Haldeman to leave the frame here, and now side by side for the 77 and the 07.
Yeah, that's got to get Haldeman now up into the 7th spot as they are still side by side. And is that Elevate Goulart who's finally starting to, he's finding a little bit of speed late here and starting to make some noise. Yep, that black number 70 right there. Multiple gold medalist in runoffs competition.
He's got Jonathan Davis with him too, so they've had some quiet laps off camera for us, but they've worked their way back into the top 10 battle. Both of those drivers actually 11th and 12th. They're going to want to get into that top 10 if they can.
Look there at Nick Bruni, and you open that margin up a little bit, and then Zilisch decided to play nicely with Drago and hasn't attacked much, and has run him back down again as we go back now.
Oh, ooh. Zilisch actually got a really good run through turn 10, opens into the inside. He is the master of this move. Gets the run out of 10, up the inside of 11, and he'll outbrake Drago pretty easily here into turn 12. And because there's such a short straightaway between turns 12 and 13, there's not a lot of consequences for overshooting this turn 12. As long as you get back, you see him throw the car into 13, and he'll have every bit as much momentum as everyone else.
Just talk about Zilisch playing nice and letting them catch up and get close. And as I say that, of course, he says, no, I'm just setting things up here. But yeah, he's been magic through turn 10. And that's one of the things, folks, if you're relatively new to racing, road racing, what you do in a corner, 3 corners away from where you make the pass is where you start that pass.
Absolutely.
You know, it's that level of strategy here. Boy, Henderson in major defense mode here. Greenhill looks back out to the outside here.
Ooh, Henderson really deep on the brakes. Saw little puffs of smoke in the back end dancing. These cars don't have brake bias adjustments, meaning the amount of brake pressure that goes to the front versus the rear, but they can change the brake pads, and if they run a little bit more aggressive rear pad, they can get the car rotating more. And you saw Brian Henderson really, really on the limit there into turn 1. That pass, by the way, from Zilisch is for 3rd. That's a podium spot.
That's a great move, getting that done. And Goulart had been right up in that battle for 8th, and now has dropped back again. And things just churn like this in Spec Miata so much. But yeah, it's Zilisch. We'll see now if Drago will help him and try and get to Bruni. And I don't know that Zilisch needs the help. He's just a rocket ship late in the race here. Yeah, impressive young man in terms of the speed. Boy, when he gets his racecraft figured out, oh boy.
Well, and even the consequences from his racecraft early on didn't seem to hurt him much as he's raced his way right back up to the front. So he was a little frantic early, but then racecrafted his way right back to where he was. See, Henderson still has kind of separated himself
Here we
from,
go.
but Zilisch has brought Drago back up to the second position battle. Bruni's got a mirror.
And you know what? Obviously, whoever is Bruni's spotter has been watching what Zilisch is doing. He's going to try it again. He didn't get the run out at 10 that time because Bruni covered it perfectly. And Drago, trying to swing back over, almost lost the car. Not only did he save it, he carried enough speed while Bruni ran a little wide. Drago comes through as well for Bruni, second to fourth like that.
That was a really bold move into 12. That was the difference between an earned position and an I'm willing to make sure neither of us are going to stay on the track kind of move, but it worked. Bruni let him have it. Henderson comes back into it too, but Zilisch back to second from third on the grid when this thing started about 30 minutes ago.
Well, and it's dropped way back outside of the top 5 and has come back in. A little touch there between Bruni and Drago, and that touch unloaded Drago's car a little bit, and that lockup got really bad. I have a feeling Drago's got a pretty good vibration through that front end right now.
Has to. Zilisch drops tires off of turn 3, but it didn't hurt him too badly. Bruni was probably not super thrilled about the way that turn 12 went about a half a lap ago. Wants to get back towards Zilisch to maybe try to return the favor.
Well, the interesting thing is, twice now when Zilisch has made that move in 12, he's run his left side right off at the edge of the track, and it doesn't seem to faze him, and just swings it back over. And he's never, when he's made that big swing back move, he's never cut anybody off because he's been so good into 12, he exits clear of them. It's impressive to watch, that's for sure. And of course, the whole story up front now with all of this dicing, Pardus has added another second to his lead. It's up to 6.5. He's just driving the gap right now.
He is, and he's certainly not the fastest car on the track anymore, far from it actually, but he's got such a gap and it doesn't have to take any risks. So he's absolutely sitting in the catbird seat. We have 2 laps to go, so if anything were to put this under caution, it's unlikely we'd even see another green flag lap. He's really in a good spot, but Zilisch, Drago, Bruni have not decided the end of the podium yet.
Yeah, not at all.
Henderson is in there too.
And the interesting thing, when you've got a lead like that and then you can back off and drive the gap, if you do get a late caution, these guys who've been battling like mad, their tires are tortured. Yours are in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
So that's really, really savvy here. And Zilisch making the move, and look at that. You talked about it, Bruni threw on Drago, and then Henderson, he's going to get a big tow this time, I would think. There's Greenhill. Let's see what plays out here. Look at Bruni getting a run. Zilisch all by himself. Drago pushing Bruni. And certainly Bruni looks like he's going to clear him, but Zilisch has been huge on the brakes and does not quiet it down if he can keep his nose there. And look at that. Bruni said, no, I'm going to the exit curve. You want to stay there, that's on you, buddy. And that pinched Zilisch, and here comes Drago working the outside through 4. And here's that big turn in down into the loop.
Whoa, Drago lunges up the inside for 6. A big flat slide for Zilisch. He keeps it under control. They're going to be side by side, but a power move from Jim Drago to shuffle the 172 back just a little bit. And the question is, if Zilisch had all that speed, did he do it 2 laps too early? We're working the penultimate lap. He could have raced himself back to second if he started 2 laps later, but he might have put himself in that front position a little too soon, which means...
Oh, look at the pop move really late down into 7. Makes it work. This kid is fearless. And this is where turn 10 he gets, that was actually turn 8. This is coming up, turn 10 where he gets these monster runs. He certainly puts the car a little bit more up on the curb, and he closes that gap up to Bruni. Here we go. This is down into his favorite overtaking area here. Does he move it? Bruni defends aggressively. And this time Zilisch says, no, Drago, that lockup is every time he just touches the brake. He is smoking that tire. He's got to be near down to quarter.
Bruni looking a little bit behind on the transitions this lap. He was late for turn 10. He was late there for turns 12 and 13 by just a little bit as well. So maybe some chinks in the armor for your current second place driver in the car number 6. This is the last lap, last opportunity to sort out the running order into turn 1.
Yep, Pardus has taken that to white flag, and now the rest of the group comes through as well. And Zilisch behind Bruni, look for the move. Here he comes down to the inside. There's a yellow, and great move. I mean, great reading that by Zilisch to recognize there's a yellow and I couldn't make that pass, tuck back in so he wouldn't lose anything. You can see a car there in the cutout. Boy, that's a big overtaking area that's just been eliminated here. But look at this move. He tried to squeeze up the inside of Bruni, and Bruni just shallowed his exit enough that it parked him. And here comes Drago, and now Zilisch has to be careful and defend on him, and this may be exactly what Bruni wanted.
This is getting a little frantic. You saw Bruni kind of park Zilisch at the apex of turn number 3. Instead of getting the run, he drove into the back of him, shattered his headlight even, and Jim Drago couldn't quite figure out what to do with it, but all of that exchange has turned this into a 7-car battle for second. This is very reminiscent of the battle for the lead at Road America last year, where the car in 6th ended up winning. That was Pardus. This lap, it's Greenhill. Maybe Greenhill gets second. Who knows?
It's possible. Certainly, everybody knows that the win is out of question. Now it's who gets the other 2 medals. And
Bruni looks behind again. He's struggling to keep ahead, but I think he's driving wide on purpose. I think he's doing that to kind of slow up Zilisch. He knows Zilisch is going to try really, really hard, try everything he can, and instead Drago goes flying off the track.
I think he got help. I think Henderson, they were having a little push and shove there, and they both end up wide. And hey, guess where Greenhill is? He's up 2 spots. You talked about it. It can happen here. All right, down into 12. Last time we would have thought that would have been a spot where Zilisch would have tried something. But maybe right now, as you pointed out, Bruni a little bit behind. Car looks like it's flat sliding. Here comes Pardus going for a 2nd straight gold medal and a 3rd, including a win here in 17. He's celebrating, but in the background, Bruni, he's got Zilisch. Zilisch pops. I don't think he's close enough. No, it'll be Bruni for the silver and Zilisch for 3rd. And boy, did Zilisch earn that medal.
That was spectacular. Such a great race, as we always expect from these guys. And then, unfortunately, Drago slips down just a little bit. It's going to be, I think that is Greenhill, then Travis Wiley in the 77, Henderson, and then Drago. Look at this. They're still battling.
You bet. Doesn't matter where you are. It's the runoffs. You want to put in a run here, down the order just a little bit for these guys, but they are racing really hard deep in the pack. That's back in the 35th, 34th position. You find people to race with, and you go after it. And look at that. One of the very special things here for all these drivers is when you come out of that last turn and you see the checker flying and you float across the bricks at Indy. And look at Pardus back there. He is celebrating, having a great time. For a minute, I thought he was looking for a spot to do donuts. He's powerful enough to do donuts.
I don't know. I think he forgot it's not the stock car. He got some seat time in earlier this year. But nonetheless, letting the crowd enjoy the sight of that 42, which we see at the front just so often at this point here in Spec Miata. A dominant drive. Was gifted a little bit of a gap early on by some battling cars. Couldn't quite agree on where they wanted to be, and that gave him just enough of a gap. He put in about a half a session's worth of qualifying laps to earn the lead, and then just cruised it home.
He broke them.
Yes.
You know, as the saying is. And you know what? In Spec Miata, it's normally for the win, it's such these close battles. But in this case, Preston Pardus literally put on a clinic out there. And that's how you know, if you get a break in Spec Miata racing or any kind of lower horsepower momentum class, you get a break. Like you said, Tomo, if you can put in qualifying laps and break them a little bit, that's what can happen. But again, just a great drive by Nick Bruni. Was right in the fray the whole time. This is only his 3rd runoffs. Boy, he was 6th last year at Road America. He didn't drive like it's only his 3rd runoff. He drove with a huge amount of experience. And then for Connor Zilisch, I think the rest of the field is looking, going, oh boy.
Yeah.
When this guy, if he hasn't really figured these cars out yet, when he does, it's going to be something really impressive here. And it's going to be fun to hear from that young man as he comes up. And yeah, for Drago, it seemed to me as they were coming through the turn, I think Henderson, they were glued together, and I think Henderson was trying to help with a push and just a little bit too much, and both of them shot off track.
And maybe Hayward can think to ask, but I really think Bruni was purposely driving the car a little bit off the apexes, about a car width off the apexes, trying to drive it wide and slow to back everybody up and promote that kind of fighting behind him. Whether he was doing it on purpose or not, it worked brilliantly, but I think it was intentional.
Yep.
And then a couple of other real quick shout-outs. Wiley finishing 5th, Travis Wiley from 18th. A couple of other Chargers I noticed, Tyler Quantz from 25th to 16th. Brett Kowalski in the 15 car from 31st to 15th. So we had a couple of really hard Chargers there in the top 30.
Yep,
15, I should say.
Those are the guys that would be in the running for that Sunoco Hard Charger Award. And look at the photographers around Pardus's car. And looks like Hayward is just waiting the arrival of our now 3-time gold medalist and 2nd consecutive, both in terms of year, winning last year and this year, and also in terms of running at Indianapolis. This guy apparently likes this track. Let's get down to Hayward.
Preston, you're the first one ever to win Spec Miata 3 times. How does that feel?
Now it feels awesome. I don't know. I'm probably going to start crying here in a second, but
Well, let me ask you this. Last year, you won with what a lot of people consider to be one of the greatest single laps in the history of the runoffs. This year, it was a series of perfect laps. Talk me through how you broke away.
yeah, I mean, it was a great team effort all week, though. The East Street guys gave me an awesome car, and you couldn't do it here without that. It allowed me to get to the infield really good when they were racing for second there, and I built the gap, and then they started racing really hard there. So I kind of was able just to maintain my lap times, and I don't know. That was probably the hardest race I ever ran. Mentally, you had to keep your head in it the whole time, and we did it. I can't believe it.
Well, congratulations to you. First 1 to 3, back-to-back, and 2 at Indy. Not bad.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate SCCA for putting on these events. They're awesome. It's the biggest amateur sports car race in the country. 92 Miatas came out, so I couldn't thank you guys enough. Mazda, Hoosier. It's a fun platform to race on. Appreciate it.
Enjoy that victory lap.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You know, when you have 92 cars show up for a class, 72 of them end up in the race, the best drivers in the country, and you throttle them. This is something, he said this was the toughest race I ever drove. And that concentration level, 1, to run those quality laps, but 2, when you got that big lead, you can't let your mind wander. You can't slow down too much. You start making mistakes. I mean, absolutely phenomenal run from that man today, Preston Pardus. But how about we want to hear these chats from Nick Bruni and Connor Zilisch, and Hayward has found them.
Nick, it looked like on the last lap, maybe the last 2 laps coming through the S's, you might have stayed a little off the apex to see if maybe you could bunch everybody up, kill some momentum. Was that the strategy, or were you struggling with the car?
No, you know, the car came to me halfway through the race. It started getting better and better. I started hitting my marks a little bit more. Jim Drago behind me, he was awesome. He was giving me some coaching out there. We were going through the turns of where to improve and where to pick up a little bit of time.
Were you on radio with him?
I was. We were on radio as Preston, myself, Jim, Grayson. We were all on the same frequency. The last 2 laps there, Connor was all over me. Jim was doing everything in his power to make it a 1, 2, 3 podium for ESR, but Connor drove an excellent race, and he got in there, and then he was kind enough to stick with me the final 2 laps there and make a run on it, added on that final lap, and luckily he wasn't able to get underneath me, and it kind of forced him back too wide, I think, with some of the other cars behind me, and after that I just kept my head down, tried to stay calm and cool and collected, and drove it home to a 2nd place finish, so it was a hell of a drive.
Well, congratulations on the silver. We're going to say you were the first of the humans. Well done. And Connor, we're going to talk to you real quick. 15 years old, first runoffs. It looked like early in the race, maybe the nerves got you a little bit. You fell back. Talk about the fight back.
Yeah, we were out on one session old tire, so I knew I would have it at the end. So I stayed patient there in 6th or 7th place, and the last 5 or 6 laps I made a run on it, passed a few guys, and I knew when I caught Nick and Jim it was going to be tough because they're teammates, and I know they're all working together to try and keep me out of it. So I really just had to do what I could, and I was able to get by Jim, and then I worked with Nick to kind of pull away from the rest of them, and I wanted to get 2nd at the line, but you know, I just didn't have it coming to it. So I'm happy with 3rd. It's a podium on my first runoff, so I can't complain.
Tell me how much you love turn 12. The turn coming back off the oval, back into the infield, coming to the finish. How much do you love turn 12?
It's an awesome corner. Going up onto the banking, it's special. So yeah, no, this track's been awesome. I've enjoyed my time here, and hopefully I'll be able to come back in my later years and in a bigger car.
Like your senior year of high school later years, right?
Yeah, 4 years later, I guess you could say.
Congratulations on the bronze.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, let's think quickly about that top three, right? Connor, that great comeback drive, those huge runs through 10 that got him those passes in 12. Preston Pardus just checked out, put on an absolute clinic, and now he gets this glorious lap of honor here with that checker flag. And sometimes you'll see, the whole crew jammed in there having some fun. But let's not forget, move of the race, I still say it's Bruni going from 6th to 3rd around the outside down into 1. That was beautiful.
I kind of forgot that was this race because so much happened. But yeah, that was about 30 minutes ago that happened, and that earned him that podium spot for sure because he put himself in the hunt.
Yeah, here they are, the provisional results. Here are your top 10. Pardus with the gold, Bruni with the silver, Zilisch with the bronze, Greenhill and Travis Wiley up into the top 5. Then Henderson, Haldeman, Drago, Goulart, and McTutis rounding out the top 10. And we're going to show you some highlights. And I don't know how you choose, because they were just coming at us left and right. At the start, you can see Henderson, the silver car, on the pole, but Pardus around the outside getting that little bit of a boost from Nick Bruni, and didn't quite get it done there, but then the next lap or so, Pardus down to the inside, and you could see Henderson was out there all by himself in freight train, and then this battle started.
This is when they were going 3 wide, 2 wide for multiple corners in a row. This is already after Bruni made that 3 wide move, but this is when Zilisch gets a little bit scrappy, gets a little bit too sendy, as we might say, and drops back eventually after a couple of these slides and slips, but couldn't quite get it done. Worked his way back up towards the front eventually, and now is kind of hooked up with those 2 teammates. This is that giant lunge. Drago lunged up the inside the corner before. Zilisch wasn't having it, takes it back, and then in the last moments, Drago gets a push, shoves it off the track, and that is what solidified the podium.
Yeah, that was it. And up front, not even in the same zip code, was Pardus. And then here was the run to the line with Bruni just hanging on over Zilisch. It was exceptionally close, absolutely phenomenal racing. Exactly what you'd expect from Spec Miata. But I think in this one, the margin between 2nd and 3rd was 61 1/1000ths of a second. That's how close they were racing. But up front, the margin was almost 7 seconds. Preston Pardus, you earned a gold medal with an absolutely phenomenal run. Thanks for joining us here at the 58th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Boy, what a pairing, the runoffs in Indy. And for Hayward Wagner down to the pits, for Tomo alongside, I'm Greg Creamer. It's been an absolute treat, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. Spec Miata here at the runoffs.
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
Welcome to that magic realm. Between here and there, a no man's land, and everyone's land. Where great expectations grow, and rewards are given to the swift, the perceptive, and the daring. Introducing the Mazda Cx-30 Turbo with all-wheel drive. More power for your pursuit.
Why race? Because it's in our blood. A love of driving that pushes us as hard on the road as it does on the track. It's why we reinvented the Roadster and put a piece of it into every car we make. It's why we refine, rethink, and refine again. And it's why we'll always engineer to your heart's BPM, not simply an engine's RPM. Why race? Why?